Hey, welcome back to the videos. This is part 2 in the Understanding How to Play in Minor Keys series. The previous video we looked at Jerusalem's Ridge in the key of A minor as our example tune. And what we're trying to do is figure out how you'll determine the chords that you'll use to play in minor keys, because this seems to be a problem area for a lot of players. But what you have to realize is that playing in minor keys is really no different than playing in major keys. You have common chord progressions or patterns for chord changes that will appear. The only thing that's a lot more complicated and confusing about playing in minor keys is instead of one minor scale that you will build chords from, you have 3 versions: the natural minor scale, the harmonic, and the melodic minor scale. So you have 3 versions of a minor scale, one being the standard version, the other 2 variate just a little bit. That means you can build 3 distinct sets of chord changes to play rhythm over your melody in a minor key. So you got way more choices. To add to that, to make it even more complicated, you can also take chord changes from outside those 3 and put them in because they sound good, and maybe because there's some kind of logic behind it that doesn't conform to the 3 scales. So it can be a really daunting task. What we're trying to do is right now is assume that Jerusalem's Ridge is written in the key of A minor natural, which means just the normal scale. And we're going to assume that all the chords we're using to play rhythm fit that standard progression, which is A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, the 7 chord would be F major, I'm sorry, the 6th chord, and the 7 chord would be G major. So we're going to assume that the chords that we're using to play rhythm for this song all come from that scale. They're all built to those scale notes. But what we figured out in the other video was that we had an oddball chord right from the beginning. We had A minor, which is the 1 chord, and then we had an E major. And when we looked at the scale and built chords out of it, we found out that the 5 chord should be E minor, not E major. And since we're assuming here, we don't know for sure, but we're assuming that this song is built on chords from the minor natural scale, just a normal scale, that the reason that we're using E instead of E minor is because it sounds good and it leads us back to A minor a little better. Maybe that's right, maybe it's not, but this is what we're going to use these videos for, is to figure this out. So let me go ahead and go into the next section of the song, and I'll hum the melody badly, probably like I did before, and we'll play the chords in the background and see what chords we're using for section 2. Well, guess what? The melody went up in pitch, went into the next octave, but the chords we use for section 2 is exactly the same. A minor and that E again, which is a little odd, and they last the same number of beats. So you can basically repeat the rhythm from the first part over to the second part. Okay, what about the next section? This is the section that gets these long rests with these odd pulses of notes. Da da dum, da da dum, da da dum, dum dum, da da dum, da da dum, da da dum, dum dum. Okay, let's examine those chords. There's not a lot of melody going on here. It's pretty sparse. But we had a new chord appear. A minor, which we used before. D minor, new chord. Back to E. There's that E again. Back to A. So for the third section, Jerusalem's Ridge, we have A minor, which is the 1 chord, D minor. Where's the D minor coming from? Well, if we build a chord from the natural minor scale, we find out that the 4 chord would be D minor. So guess what? The D minor chord that we're playing is naturally occurring in that scale anyway. So we're not using anything odd there. That actually belongs there. So we have a 1, a 4, and a 5. But the 5 is a little funny. We haven't figured that one out yet. But The 1 is A minor, the D minor is the 4 chord, and we're using E as our 5 chord. Normally it would be E minor, but we need to figure out why, and we'll do that a little later. But so far we have in this section a 1-4-5 chord progression, which everybody who's played banjo for any amount of time will recognize. If we were doing this song in a major key, it would be like G, C, and D. It would be a 1-4-5 chord progression, just 3 normal chords that everybody's used to playing. But the only thing that seems odd is we're playing the song in a minor key. But guess what? We still have a 1-4-5 chord progression happening. It just happens to be different chords because we're using a minor scale to build them. So it's still a 1-4-5 chord progression so far. Okay, now let's go into the next section of the song. This is where it'll get even stranger, and we'll have to figure out why it's doing this. Now, before I do the repeat there, let's see what's happening. We had A minor, C major, A minor, okay, there's that little bridge section again. A minor, D minor, E, back to A minor. That's basically a repeat of that other section. So what was odd about this fourth section of the song? There was a C major. Okay, we're going from A minor, which is the 1 chord, to C major. Where would C major come from? It's the 3 chord. If you build scale notes out of this A minor scale, guess what? You'll wind up with a C major, C, E, G. So, the C chord that we're going to that seems like it may be odd is actually, for a minor key, it's not really that unusual. It's the 3 chord. 1, 3, 1. And then there's that E again. And then we'll repeat the other section. Now it gets repeated. That's the entire song. So let's break it down into Roman numerals, a chord progression for the entire song, all sections. We have 1 to a 5 to a 1 for one section. The second section is the same thing again, 1, 5, 1. And then when the melody goes up, it's the same thing again. So the first and second sections are the same, 1, 5, 1. Okay, then we have the next section, which has the pulses. That's 1, 4, 5, 1. 1, 4, 5, 1. Okay, and then in the final section, we have 1 to a 3. 1 to a 5. So it's a 1, 3, 1, 5, 1. So if you write all that down, you have a bunch of Roman numerals, 1, 5, 3, 1, 1, 4, 5. But basically this is using, for the most part, this entire melody so far is structured on the A minor natural scale, and the chords we're using all conform to A minor natural except for the E. The E is still the oddball chord. So a good exercise would be to write out these scale notes, build triads out of them, write them out. You know, A minor, D, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F, and G will be the chords that you'll build using those scale notes. Write them out as 1, Roman numeral, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you'll see that you have majors and minors that you can use to play chords. In the next video, we'll try to understand where that E is coming from. I appreciate it. See you next time.